Yes, hello everyone. Yes, somebody please ping me if I'm audible so that I can start the session. Yes, everyone. Somebody. Good evening, Raghupati. Yes, somebody please ping me if I'm audible so that I can start the session. Okay, thanks, Raghupati. Hello everyone. Welcome to Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform. Let's crack UPSC CSE English. Now, before I start with very dynamic topic today, let me introduce myself to the people who are new on the platform or who are attending my session for the first time. My name is Alok Ojha. I have done my engineering from Pune. I have been in the field of UPSC since past 6 to 6.5 years. I have been through various stages of civil services exam, experience of giving serious SSB twice. I also hold the experience of exams like CAPF Assistant Commandant and Uttar Pradesh PSC. I'm involved into the field of teaching since past 4.5 to 5 years, and I have mentored more than 10,000 students for UPSC. Now, we are going to discuss a very dynamic topic today, that is Nehru Report, Jinnah's 14-point plan, and Lahore session. Now, before that, basically, there might be the question in the mind of an aspirant why one should prefer Unacademy as a platform for online learning. So, here are the ample of reasons why one should prefer Unacademy as a platform for online learning. First of all, you'll have daily life classes on the Unacademy platform. Unacademy offers you assimilation of top and dynamic educators of India on a single platform. You can directly interact with the educators. You can clear all sorts of doubts with the educators. Second most important aspect, which I personally believe is a very important aspect for an aspirant, that is developing competence or competitiveness. Now, why competence or competitiveness is important in this exam, let us understand. Each year, approximately around 8 to 9 lakh aspirants fill up the form for UPSC. 3 to 4 lakh appear for the prelims exam. 10 to 11,000 qualify the prelims exam, 3 to 4,000 qualify the mains exam, and finally 800 to 1,000 odd make into the final list. So if I filter it down, one aspirant is competing with 800 to 900 other aspirant. And in that case, he needs to build up that sort of competitiveness or competence, because he is not only competing with the fellow aspirant in a district, he is competing on pan India basis. And that is why he needs to build up that sort of competence. And Unacademy helps you to build up your competence by going through live tests and quizzes. All the courses on Unacademy platform are highly structured in nature, and there is a proper timetable through which the courses are conducted. One can have unlimited access to the courses on Unacademy platform. Here are the few top and dynamic educators of India from whom you're going to learn through. These are the courses being offered on the Unacademy platform. Subscribe to Unacademy and use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Now there is also something called as iconic subscription. Now, what is iconic subscription all about? Let us understand within few seconds. Suppose you're a beginner and you're preparing for civil services basically. Now there might be like an aspirant usually a beginner. He usually faces hindrances with right strategy, right timetable, how an option should be chosen up. Then basically how much time should be dedicated to a particular GS subject, how much time should be dedicated to newspaper reading, how much time should be dedicated to current affairs, what government magazines need to be preferred for current affairs. So basically your work has been simplified by an academy. Here there would be a specific mentor who would be guiding you throughout your journey of civil services preparation. This is nothing but iconic subscription. If you choose me as your mentor, please use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Good evening, Uvasri. Good evening, Vaishali. Very good evening, Kiruba. Good evening, Shipra. Good evening, Aisha. Good evening, Supriya. Good evening, Shashank. Good evening, Sonali. Good evening, Kajal. Good evening, Yogesh. Good evening, Anshu. Yes, guys. So, as usual, before I start with the Nehru report, I will give you a brief background of 2 to 3 minutes so that the people who are new on the platform or who are attending my session for the first time, they can very easily understand the concept in a very stage by stage manner. Okay. Now, basically, throughout the entire course of history, I have used a very simplistic pattern, that is SFC, story, fact, and concept, so that one can easily remember the concept. Okay. Now, Nehru report came approximately around 1929, but there were various series of events before 1929 which led to the Nehru report. Like, non-cooperation movement was started from 1920, and the call for non-cooperation movement was given by one of the very dynamic leaders in India, MK Gandhi. Now, MK Gandhi, he became an international leader after his South African experiment, because his South African experiment was quite successful, and he evolved two new techniques of waging a war or fighting a battle. And these, like, you might feel like waging a war or fighting a battle, these are violent terms, but the two new techniques that he evolved was completely non-violent in nature, and that was non-violence and satyagraha. Now, MK Gandhi coined the term satyagraha for the first time in South Africa when he was fighting for the rights of Indians and Asians living in South Africa. Now, MK Gandhi, when he came to India, he did not join the active politics for at least 1 or 1.5 years. And this was suggested to him by his political guru, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Gopal Krishna Gokhale suggested MK Gandhi that, first of all, tour the entire India. First of all, tour the entire India. Try and analyze and understand the situation of India, and then enter into the politics in India. Then, MK Gandhi, for the first time, experimented with Champaran Satyagraha. Then he experimented with Ahmedabad meal strike, and then with Kheda Satyagraha in Gujarat, which I have discussed in quite depth and detail in the peasant movement section. Now, basically, MK Gandhi started a movement called as non-cooperation movement. And the reason for starting non-cooperation movement were numerous. Like, basically, it is said that against the Rowlatt Act, basically MK Gandhi had announced nationwide hartal. And in Punjab, the hartal was led by Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlo. And these two leaders of the Punjab were arrested. To raise a protest, a peaceful protest against the arrest of their leader, people gathered in Punjab at a place called as Jallianwala Bagh. Now, General Dyer, without confirming the situation, without analyzing the situation, directly started firing upon the people, directly started firing upon the innocent crowd. Firing continued for 15 to 17 minutes, and it is said that firing only stopped when the ammunition was over. More than 10,000 people were caught under the hails of bullets, and it is said that officially 376 people were killed. Unofficially, there were more than 1,000 people who were killed during the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. And this entire event in the history of modern India is referred as Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Then basically was Khilafat movement. During World War I, basically it is said that Turkey was on opposite side of Britain. And Britain won the World War I, and it started imposing harsh terms and conditions on Turkey. Now, the ruler of Turkey was also referred as Caliph, and it was a very important religious post for all the Sunni Muslims of the world. Now, basically, the position of Caliph was removed. Now, this hurted the sentiments of Muslims all over the world, and specifically the Muslims in India. Now, basically, they started a movement against this, which is referred as Khilafat movement. Now, to project that Hindus and Muslims are not separate, the non-cooperation movement was merged with Khilafat movement. And finally, the call for non-cooperation movement was given in Nagpur session of 1920. Now, non-cooperation movement was very successful throughout the nation. But an incident occurred basically in 1922, which is referred as Chauri Chaura incident. Like, as I have said you, the entire movement is cornered around two major aspects. non-violence and satyagraha. MK Gandhi believed that a satyagrahi should never be against the evildoer. If anybody, even if the person is doing violence against you, you should not follow the path of violence. That was the principle of satyagraha. Now, basically, at a place called as Chauri Chaura in Gorakhpur district of Uttar Pradesh, few people were protesting, peacefully protesting against the inflation, against the rising prices in front of a liquor shop. Now, initially, police did a lathi charge, and later on, what did the police do? They started firing on the people. Now the mob got angry, and they started what we say beating up the police initially. Later on, the 22 policemen were put up in a police station, and the entire police station was torched. It was burnt. Now, this incident shook the entire nation, and MK Gandhi immediately took the non cooperation movement back. Now, basically, MK Gandhi was heavily criticized for taking the non cooperation movement back or withdrawing the non cooperation movement. The reason behind that, 3 years, the non cooperation movement was very successful. Many satyagrahis were put behind the jail. Many satyagrahis were killed during the protest against the Britishers, because Britishers right from the start always followed the brutal policy of suppression. When violence was conducted by the Britishers against the Indians, MK Gandhi did not take the movement back. But when there was a small incidence of violence against the Britishers, MK Gandhi entirely took the movement backwards when the movement was very successful. Now, few people basically who were angry with this policy of MK Gandhi, basically they departed away from the Congress and they formed their own party, which is called as Swaraj Party. And these were referred as Swarajist. By the time MK Gandhi was in jail for 6 years, like in after the Chauri Chaura incident and the non-cooperation movement, MK Gandhi was arrested and he was put into the jail for coming 6 years, but he was released again in 1924. Now, when he was released in 1924, he came to know that there was certain section of the Indian National Congress which has parted away from the Congress and formed its own political party, which was called as Swaraj Party. Now, MK Gandhi was afraid of this. Now, why he was afraid of this situation? The same thing happened in Surat, 1907 session. Like in the Surat 1907, extremists and the moderates who were the part of the same Congress, because of certain issues, they parted away from the Congress. And who got the advantage of this? Britishers got the advantage of this. Because right from the start itself, Britishers always followed the policy of divide and rule and carrot and stick policy. What happened basically? Now, basically, Gandhi did not wanted the split again in the Congress. The reason behind that is one of the major aspect of the split was from 1908 to 1914, there was a political vacuum in the country. There was no political activity in the entire nation because Lala Lajpat Rai, one of the extremist leader, went to England. Pal Gangadhar Tilakji, he was in the jail. Aurobindo Ghosh and Bipin Chandra Pal retired from the active politics. People completely lost the patriotic zeal. People completely lost the enthusiasm for nationalism and they accepted slavery as a part of their life. Now, MK Gandhi did not want this situation to happen again. That is why he urged the Swarajists to join back the Congress. And finally, Swarajists came back into the Congress. Now, one commission came in India around 1928. Basically, it is 1927, but it arrived in India in 1928. And that commission is Simon Commission. Now, the background for Simon Commission goes back to Government of India Act 1919, or it is also called as Montego-Chelmsford Reforms. Now, there is one clause in Montego-Chelmsford Reform, and that clause is basically after 10 years, a commission would be appointed in India which will review the working of Montego-Chelmsford Reform. I repeat, one of the clauses of Montego-Chelmsford Reform is After 10 years, a commission would be appointed in India, which would be reviewing the working of Montego-Chelmsford reform. Now, commission was appointed 2 years earlier. Now it was appointed under the leadership of Sir John Simon. Now, why the commission was appointed? To review the working in India. If it was appointed to review the working in India, some of the Indian members should be included in that, but no single member was included in the Simon Commission. It was completely all white commission. Seven members were there in the Simon Commission, but no single Indian was there in the Simon Commission, and it was heavily criticized. Now, Simon Commission, basically, when it landed in India, it was like greeted with black flags throughout all over India. Like wherever it went, Bombay, Pune, Lahore, Vijayawada, and so on. Everywhere it was greeted with black flags and a slogan was raised, Simon, go back. Now, during the protest against the Simon Commission, Lala Lajpat Rai had a lot of lathi blows on his chest, which basically succumbed him to death. Now there was again a turmoil in the entire nation. And now the nation was prepared for another important movement, which is called as civil disobedience movement. By now, we have seen that. Now, let us go a bit analytical, okay? Because there is no need, like basically, there is no need of understanding the raw facts until and unless we know the analysis behind that. Isn't that so? Now, Muslim Gokhale, whose name was Muhammad Ali Jinnah, initially he was supportive of the Congress. Initially, he was supportive of the policies of the Congress and he worked for United India. Now, what happened basically that his mind got drastically changed and he started demanding for a separate nation now. He started demanding for a separate land for Muslims now. What incidents occurred? Basically, Muhammad Ali Jinnah initially was a follower of Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. Basically, he was one of the representatives of Home Rule League movement, that is of the Tilak's League. But what incidents occurred basically that led Muhammad Ali Jinnah to drastically change his mind? Now, let us understand the Nehru Report. My friends, did you understand the background till here? Please let me know so that I can move further. Good evening, Apurva. Good evening, Monisha. Good evening, Rituparna. Good evening, Puli. Good evening, Satya. Good evening. Yes, Sasriya Akal Aditya. Yes, guys, did you understand? Okay. Now let us understand the Nehru Report. Okay. At this point of time, Secretary of State for India was Lord Birkenhead. Now, who is Secretary of State? Now, for the people who are new on the platform, let me explain you. After the revolt of 1857, the rule of company in India was replaced by rule of crown. And the crown was represented in India by Secretary of State. Secretary of State was a member of British Parliament. He was also basically a member of British Cabinet. And he represented the crown. Okay. Now, Secretary of State for India at this time was Lord Birkenhead. Now, Lord Birkenhead, now there was a turmoil in the entire nation after the arrival of Simon Commission and what recommendations it gave. Now, basically, this person, Lord Birkenhead, gave open challenge to the nationalists of India to frame their own constitution. Like he said that, I am giving you a particular deadline. Before that, you should frame the constitution of yourself and table it before the British Parliament, before the deadline. Otherwise, after that, I'm not going to listen a single call for framing the constitution in India. Now, basically, Lord Birkenhead was very criticized in the British Parliament that why did you take such a step? Why did you allow the Indians to frame their own constitution? Lord Birkenhead gave a very simple reply. I know that Indians won't be able to create their own constitution. And basically, he was very much sure about it. Why? Because we were fighting among ourselves. We were divided amongst ourselves. And Britishers, right from the start, have always followed the policy of divide and rule. And they knew that basically there are many sections of the Indian society which are divided amongst themselves. And now they cannot frame the Constitution of India. That is why he gave an open challenge that I am giving you an open challenge that you frame the Constitution of India. Now a committee was created and the committee was headed by Motilal Nehru. And the secretary to that committee was Jawaharlal Nehru. There were many others members in the committee like Mangal Singh, Tej Bahadur Sapru, Subhash Chandra Bose, and so on. Now, committee prepared its report. Since Motilal Nehru was a president of the committee is also referred as Nehru Committee. Okay, and the report was submitted at in the Lucknow session of the All Party Conference in 1928. Now, let us understand basically what are the important recommendations that were given in the Nehru Committee report. Okay, now, first thing, dominion status of India within the British Commonwealth. Now, what is dominion status like? Dominion status is similar to self-government. Now, what is self-government or dominion status? Like, we would be free to choose our own dignitaries. We would be conducting elections in our country. We would have freedom of speech in our country. We would have a secular country. Our sovereignty will remain intact. We are going to choose our own judiciary, legislature, and the executive. But we will not alienate ourselves. We will not detach ourselves from the Britishers. This is called as dominion status. And one of the recommendations in the Nehru Committee report was dominion status for India. Second major recommendation was fundamental rights should be given to Indians, and one of the rights was basically right to vote for both men and women. And specific criteria should be there. Like basically age limit should be the criteria for voting and not the taxable income. I'll give you a very simple example, my friends. There was an act which is called as Montego-Chelmsford Reforms Act. And one of the clauses in the Montego-Chelmsford Reforms was any person whose taxable income is rupees 3,000 can vote. I repeat, any person whose taxable income is more than rupees 3,000 can go for voting. So basically, what should be the clause actually? Anybody above a prescribed age limit can go for voting. But this was not there in Montego-Chelmsford reform. But one of the recommendations of the Nehru report was here, everybody should be given the right to vote. Because people have the free will to choose those people who are going to frame rules and regulation for them, who are going to frame policies for them. Then, basically, there should be equal right for men and women to form unions. Now listen to me. Tomorrow I'm going to discuss a very important topic, that is trade union movement. Okay. Now basically their right to form associations or unions should be given to all the Indians, either it be a man or a woman basically. Okay. Now basically it is also a part of present day fundamental rights. Isn't that so? It is a part of basically Article 19. So there should be right to form unions. Okay. Then complete disassociation of state from the religion. In very simple words, the state or the nation should be completely secular in nature. Everybody is free to profess his own religion. He can also propagate his own religion. And state will not have any religion of its own. And state will not interfere in the religious practices of any other religion. So in very simple words, state has completely disassociated itself from the religious perspective. This simply exemplifies the secular nature of the country. This was one of the recommendations. Full responsible government with residuary powers with the center. Listen to the concept very clearly. Basically, there are three types of list: union list, state list, and concurrent list. In union list, there are various subjects which are of national importance. In state list, there are various subjects which are of local importance. Now, in basically the center make laws on the subjects that are mentioned in union list. The state makes law basically on the subjects that are mentioned in the state list, and subjects that are mentioned in concurrent list. Both the center and the state can make law on those subjects. But there are few subjects which are not mentioned in any of the three lists. And in that case, law on that subject would be made by the central government. So one of the major recommendation was the residuary power lies with the center. If any particular subject is not mentioned in any particular list, the law would be made on that subject by the central government. This is one of the major recommendation. There should be bicameral legislature at the center. Already there was a bicameral legislature as per basically Government of India Act 1919. And what is bicameral legislature? It is like present day. And in parliament, we have two houses, Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So basically this is called as bicameral legislature. There are many states in India who also have bicameral legislature in the form of Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. So similarly, at that time, in the center, there should be bicameral legislature. Another recommendation. Ministry should be responsible to legislature. Okay. Now listen to this fact, listen to this concept very carefully. Now basically, there were if I talk about the provinces, as per Government of India Act 1919, okay, diarchy was introduced in the provinces. Listen to the concept so that all your doubts are clear. As per Government of India Act 1919, diarchy was introduced in the provinces. Now, what is diarchy? Diarchy basically means rule of two. Okay, one was Governor General and his council, and other was ministers. Okay, now Governor General and council are going to frame laws on reserved subject, and ministers are going to frame laws or policy on transferred subject. So basically, if we see, majority of the power lies in the hands of Governor General. So what is the point in choosing the ministers? Isn't that so? So one of the major demands and one of the major recommendation was minister should be given the power to frame the laws. Minister should be responsible to the legislature. Okay. Now, in present context, we have President of India, who is the first citizen of India. President of India is a constitutional head of the country in the present context. So at that time, one of the recommendation of Nehru Committee report was basically that Governor General should be the constitutional head of India, and he would be paid out of Indian revenues. India would be paying him. Now, why he would be paid out of Indian revenues? Because he was representing India as a part of dominion status. He was representing India in the Commonwealth. That is why basically Governor General would be paid out of Indian revenues. Okay. Then autonomy to the provinces. Now, what is autonomy? Complete authority to frame rules and regulation. Complete freedom to frame rules and regulation. Listen to me very carefully. I have discussed just a while back that diarchy was introduced in the provinces. Okay, that is rule of two. One was the Governor General and his Executive Council, and the other was basically minister. And there were two subjects, reserved subject and transferred subject. Reserved, the name itself speak. Who is going to make laws on these subject? Britishers are going to make laws on these subject. And transferred subject, who are going to make laws? Ministers are going to make laws on the transferred subject. But there is one problem with the transferred subject. If the Britishers feel that administration is not run properly, the subjects could be transferred to the Britishers. Britishers will start making law on the transferred subject. So basically, there is no freedom given to the ministers. There is no freedom given to the provinces. Why? Because majorly the laws would be imposed upon the provinces by the Britishers. So now here a clause was added. Autonomy should be given to the provinces. Okay. Now, provinces should be created along the linguistic basis. Now, why along the linguistic basis? Let us understand this. Like basically in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, usually majorly the people speak Avdi and Bhojpuri. In Punjab, usually people speak Punjabi. Then in Madhya Pradesh, people speak Hindi. In Maharashtra, people speak Marathi. Andhra Pradesh, usually people speak Telugu. Karnataka, people speak Kannada. So basically, in Tamil Nadu, people speak Tamil. Now, what will happen here? If the states are created on the linguistic basis, the leaders would be chosen from these areas. Now, what will happen here basically? The leaders are in contact with the people at the grassroots level and they actually know the situation of that area. Isn't that so? Suppose if I am a leader who is a part of Indian National Congress and I am representing the region of Maharashtra. Now I am quite aware about the grassroots realities of Maharashtra. Isn't that so? Why? Because I have been associated with the people in Maharashtra at the grassroots level. That is why there should be creation of the states on linguistic basis so that the leaders would be quite aware. Linguistic basis here does not promote regionalism, my friends. Okay? Now, no separate electorate for any community. Demand for joint electorate. Listen to me very carefully. As per Morley Minto Reform or Indian Council Act 1909, I have told you separate electorate was given for Muslim. You remember? Like I'll give you a very small example. Total number of seat in the Imperial Legislative Council was 60. 60. Out of 60 seats, 27 was elected and 33 was nominated. Okay? Out of 27, 8 were reserved for Muslim. So for the first time, separate electorate provision was made to the minorities and specifically the Muslim as per Indian Council Act 1909. Now what was one of the major demand? To remove the separate electorate. Why to remove the separate electorate? Because it will create disunity among the people. It will throw a different image in the eyes of Britishers that India is not united. People are squabbling among themselves. That is why basically a demand for joint electorate was kept. Okay. Now, no reservations for Muslim in Punjab and Bengal. Now listen to me very carefully. Why no reservation for Muslim in Punjab and Bengal? Again, so that Hindu-Muslim unity remains intact. I have already told you in 1905, okay, Lord Curzon tried the partition of Bengal. Rather than saying tried the partition of Bengal, he announced the partition of Bengal. And what did he said? Bengal has become too big to be administered by a single viceroy. But what was the actual hidden intention of the Britishers? To break the communal harmony of Bengal, because Bengal could be divided on communal lines. Bengal could be divided on Hindu Muslim lines to break the communal harmony there. Because West Bengal had a Hindu majority area, East Bengal will again had a Muslim majority area, and if reservation is given in the region of Bengal, this will promote again disunity among Hindus and Muslims. So basically, no reservation should be given to the Muslims in Punjab and Bengal. It was not against the minority, but to keep the unity intact. That is why this clause was included. Then, reservation of the seat on the basis of population for a fixed tenure of 10 years. This clause, even we have today, basically, like for example, if particular minority is not represented properly, okay, then there would be reservation for 10 years. And when there is economic upliftment, educational upliftment, political upliftment of that minority, then basically the reservation will cease to exist. Okay, so this clause was introduced. Then, reservations for non-Muslim in Northwest Frontier Province. Listen to me very carefully. Now, in the Northwest Frontier Province, basically, there were few Muslims like Sikh and Hindus. Now, why reservation should be given to them? Listen to me, my friends. I have used the word reservation, not separate electorate. Reservations mean few seats should be reserved for them in every political aspect, educational aspect, legislative aspect, so that their representation is proper from that region. That is why few non-Muslims should be given reservation. No separate seats, no separate electorate system should be introduced. Why? Because it will again project Hindu-Muslim disunity. But if you reserve the seats for them, their cultural interests are protected. Okay? Then, even today, we find this as a part of Article 29 and 30 of the Constitution of India. That is, cultural and religious interest of Muslims should be protected. Cultural and religious interest of any minority would be protected. Okay? Now, proposal for creation of Supreme Court. As per Regulating Act 1773, Supreme Court was created at Fort William. If you remember, guys, it was created at Fort William, and Imphi was the first judge of the Supreme Court. But now the capital has been shifted from Calcutta to Delhi, and there was a demand to create a new Supreme Court basically, which would carry on the judiciary process throughout the entire India. Okay, and language of the country was not decided. In very simple words, language of the country would be Indian, and the script would be Devanagari. We are Indians first, and then we are particular Hindi speaking people, Marathi speaking people, Tulu speaking, Telugu speaking, Malayalam speaking, and so on. First, we are Indians. Okay? The major recommendations of the Nehru Report. My friends, did you understand this? See, RJ, Nehru Report was made post the arrival of Simon Commission. It was in 1929. Okay? Now, see, Satya, basically, when we are as a part in dominion status, we are running our own administration, but we have not alienated ourselves from the Britishers. Why? Because we have involved same democratic process in our own nation. Because previous to this, Britishers were governing over us, and they were introducing reforms in democratic lines, and we have taken these reforms from the Britishers. This will signify that basically we have democratized ourselves from the Britishers. Basically, we have adopted this from the Britishers. That is why initially for a few years we are going to associate ourselves with the Britishers. Hope so, Satya. I have made my point clear. Yes, Harmeet. Same is the answer for the what we say dominion status. What I have answered now. RJ, Muslims are referred as minorities because their population is less in comparison to the major religious group in India. Okay? Yes, Vaishali, you have a question. Why reservation was only in Punjab and Bengal? The reason behind that, Muslims were present everywhere in India, but majorly they had the population in the region of Punjab and Bengal. Okay? Hope so, Vaishali, I have answered your question. Yes, Monisha. Basically, in very few words, in very simple language, it was like basically Nehru report tried to frame the constitution for India. Okay, like fundamental rights were given, then the center was made strong in comparison to the provinces. Like what did Simon Commission do initially? It tried to make the provinces strong in comparison to the center. But Nehru report made the center strong in comparison to the provinces. But provinces were also given the freedom to frame their own laws and policy. They were given the freedom to frame their own rules and regulations. Then proper fundamental rights were introduced for the Indians, like freedom of speech, right to vote, and so on. Now basically there was secular nature of society that was being evolved through a clause that I have mentioned. So basically, we were trying to create or frame a constitutional and democratic and secular line. Hope so, Monisha, you got the points clear. Yes, Satya. Association of Britishers, basically, like initially we were given dominion status. Okay, finances would be carried out by us, but external affairs would be taken care by the Britishers. Why? Because we are a part of their, we have not detached ourselves from the Britishers. Okay, so our external affairs would be governed by them. Our defense policy to an extent would be governed by them. But with the passage of time, when our sovereignty becomes intact and we become a complete sovereign nation, these powers would be given back to us again. Hope so, Satya. I have answered your question. Okay. Now, what happened after this recommendation? If you remember the sentences, my friend, I have told you what did Lord Birkenhead say? Lord Birkenhead said in the Parliament, British Parliament, that I am 100% sure, even if the constitution is created in India, the people are divided into various religion, they are divided into various sect, they are divided into various subsect, they are divided on casteist line. And now this constitution won't be implemented in India. This was said by Lord Birkenhead, and this is what is going to happen. Now, when Nehru report was tabled, there was a violent clash between Hindu Mahasabha and Muslim League. And at that time, Hindu Mahasabha was represented by M.R. Zaikar and Muslim League was represented by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And there was a violent clash. When I am using the word violent clash, it simply means that there was a fight between both of them over the issues of the representation, non-representation, and so on. Now, what happened basically? Muhammad Ali Jinnah and few Muslim leaders met Motilal Nehru in Delhi. Okay, they personally went there in Delhi and met Motilal Nehru there, and they suggested certain changes in the Nehru report, and these are called as Delhi proposals. I repeat, after the Nehru report was tabled, there was a violent clash between M.R. Zaikar, who was representing Hindu Mahasabha, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was representing basically this Muslim League basically. Now, certain Muslim leaders and Muhammad Ali Jinnah went to Delhi and they met basically Motilal Nehru and suggested certain changes in the report. These are called as Delhi proposal. Okay, and what were these changes? One third representation of Muslim in the central legislature. I'll give you a very small example. Suppose there are 100 seats in the Imperial Legislative Council. Okay, suppose there are 100 seats there. So one third seats should be reserved for Muslim. My friends, here I haven't used the word minority because in minorities there are Sikh, there are Muslim, there are Parsis, there are Jains, there are Buddhist, and so on. Okay, but Muslims wanted one third representation in the central legislature completely. So, for example, there are 100 seats, 33 seats should be reserved for Muslim. This was the first demand. Second, representation to Muslims in Punjab and Bengal on the basis of population. I'll give you a very simple example. Suppose, okay, example I'm giving you so that you can easily understand the concept. Suppose in Bengal, the population is 1000. Okay. Now for every 100, there is one, what we say, minister being appointed. So how many ministers should be there totally? 10 ministers should be there. Now the demand was basically, according to the first clause, out of 10 ministers, 3 should be Muslims. Because what does the first clause says? Basically one third representation to the Muslim. So basically proper representation should to the Muslim should be given on the basis of population in Punjab and Bengal, because here the Muslim population was quite high. Okay, then formation of 3 new states, formation of 3 new provinces, that is Sindh, Balochistan and Northwest Frontier Province, and all these provinces had a Muslim majority population. So another important demand was formation of 3 new provinces. And finally, one of the demand was accepted, joint electorate. Now, they did not go for a separate electorate. Okay. Now, joint electorate will promote Hindu-Muslim unity. And separate electorate, what it will promote basically, this will promote disunity among the eyes of Britishers. So joint electorate was accepted by the Muslim League. Now these are called as Delhi proposals, which was kept by Muhammad Ali Jinnah on behalf of Muslim League in front of Motilal Nehru. And Motilal Nehru included these reform in the Nehru Report. Now what happened further? Now Hindu Mahasabha came to know about this. Okay. Now Hindu Mahasabha came to know about this, and now they were completely opposed to formation of the new provinces. Like basically Sindh was a part of Bombay presidency or a Bombay province. Okay. And now they wanted it to be a part of Bombay province itself. Because if we keep on dividing the provinces, okay, it will increase the administrative burden on us. Okay. So one of the major demands here was not to create the provinces, more new provinces. Okay. Until and unless we have created our own constitution in proper manner, we won't be go on creating more provinces. Then see, now Hindu Mahasabha again retaliated one more point that okay, we will go for a joint electorate and few seats would be reserved for Muslim, where we feel that Muslims are in minority. Okay. And another important thing, I have told you that Sindh is a region where Muslims are in majority. If Muslims are in majority, Hindus and other section would be in minority. Similarly, as we are reserving few seats for Muslim in Punjab and Bengal or in places where Muslims are in minority, in similar fashion, the seats should be reserved for Hindus where they are in minority. So this was demand of Hindu Mahasabha. What happened basically? Jinnah again came to know about this. These were included here. Okay. Now Jinnah again proposed the same thing what he had proposed earlier in Delhi proposal. And one thing was added extra. That is, residuary power should be given to provinces and not the center. Now what is residuary power? I am repeating the points again, my friends. There are three types of list. The subjects mentioned in the union list, the center will be framing laws on that. On the subjects mentioned in the state list, the state would be framing laws on that. And on the subjects basically which is not mentioned in any of the list, basically center should make law on that. But now what again basically Muhammad Ali Jinnah suggested? He suggested now provinces would be making law on that and not the center. Okay. Now this was not accepted. The viewpoints of Muhammad Ali Jinnah was not accepted as a part of Nehru Report. Okay. Now what happened basically? It was not accepted as a part of Nehru Report. Now basically Muhammad Ali Jinnah got very angry with this and he put forward 14-point plan. And he said that if these 14 points plan are included in the report, then and then Muslim League is going to support the Indian National Congress in its activities. Otherwise, we are not going to support Indian National Congress in its activities. This is referred as Jinnah's 14-point plan. Okay. Yes, my friends, did you understand basically the Nehru report? Please let me know. Any query, any question, any sort of doubt. Yes, guys, please let me know. No, Satya. Residuary list is not that. See, union list, state list, and concurrent list. The subjects that are mentioned in union list, center will frame law on that. Subjects that are mentioned in state list, states will make law on that. And subjects that are mentioned in concurrent list, both can make law on that. That is center and state. But there are few subjects which are not mentioned in any of the three lists. Okay, which are not mentioned in any of the three lists. So who is going to make law on that? Center should make law on that. But what basically Muslim League proposed? That provinces will make law on that. Getting the points clear? Yes, Raghupati, you have asked me what is separate electorate. Now listen to me. Now in basically separate electorate, along with the seats reserved, okay, like few seats would be reserved for Muslim basically, but only Muslim candidates would be standing on that, and only Muslim candidates can vote for that. Getting the points clear? Only Muslim candidates would be voting for that. Apart from that, they can also stand with from other seat. Getting the points clear? For example, if there is a particular Muslim area and few seats are reserved for Muslim, okay, now only Muslim candidate would be standing for elections from that seat. Secondly, Muslim voter can only vote for Muslim candidate, and the person who is standing from that seat can also fight from the general seat as well, but still he has a seat reserved. This is separate electorate. Hope so, Raghupati, I have made my point clear. Yes, please let me know so that I can move further. Okay, now let us discuss Jinnah's 14-point plan. Yes, perfect, Satya. Correct. Yes, Shipra. I'll explain that as well. How his son opposed the report. That is the Nehru report. I'll explain that point in the end. Now listen to Jinnah's 14-point plan very carefully. Now when Simon Commission, listen to the background first. When Simon Commission came in India, like Indian National Congress and majority of the people decided to oppose the arrival of Simon Commission in India. Now Muslim League at that time was divided into two parts. One was led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah and the other was led by Muhammad Shafi. Okay. Now Muhammad Ali Jinnah believed that Simon Commission should be boycotted, because if we welcome the Simon Commission, basically what will happen? It will project Hindu Muslim disunity. But Muhammad Shafi decided to welcome the Simon Commission. So Muhammad Shafi, one wing under Muhammad Shafi, welcomed the Simon Commission, and the other wing of the Muslim League under Muhammad Ali Jinnah did not welcome the Simon Commission. But now, after the Nehru report, Muhammad Ali Jinnah became angry and he moved to the Safi section, and he started like putting forward certain demands in front of the what we say Indian National Congress. And these are the demands, basically 14 demands which were put forward. Now let us discuss these demands clause by clause so that you can easily understand the concept. First, future constitution should be federal in nature with residuary power vested in the provinces. Federal constitution. Like presently, we are following the principles of federalism. Now, what is federalism all about? Let us understand. In federalism, basically, center has its own power, states has its own power. But majorly, the power of center is beyond the power of state. States are subordinated to the center. In simple words, center is made strong in comparison to the state. This is true federalism. But here basically he also demanded federal nature. But residuary power should be given to the provinces. And I have discussed, my friends, residuary powers. What is residuary powers here? I have told you three types of list: union list, state list, and concurrent list. Center would be framing law on the union list. Then state would be framing laws on the state list. Both can frame law on concurrent list. But there are few subjects which are not mentioned in any of the three lists. Actually, center should have the right to frame laws on these lists. But here he demanded provinces should be given the right to frame laws on these subject. That is called as residuary powers. Then in every provinces, wherever legislative council is created, in the center, wherever basically legislature is created, Muslims should be given proper representation on the basis of population. Getting the points clear? This was a second demand. Then, no constitutional amendment by the center without concurrence of state. I'll give you a very simple example. Now, for example, if a new province is to be created or a new state is to be created, center should take the recommendation of that state into consideration. For example, there was demand for creation of Sindh. There was demand for creation of Balochistan. There was demand for creation of a separate province in the form of Northwest Frontier Province. So in that case, even if the territorial boundaries are changed, center cannot do according to its own will. Center has to take in concurrence the states in which the law is being made. Getting the points clear? For example, if new Sindh province is to be created, what area should it cover? What name should it be given? It should be decided in concurrence with the Sindh province itself. This was the another important demand. One-third representation to the Muslims in the central legislature. I have discussed about this. I'll explain again in short. Suppose, for example, I'm giving an example so that you can easily understand. Suppose in the central legislature, there are 100 seats. So out of 100 seats, 33 seats should be reserved for the Muslim. This was one of the demand. Provincial autonomy, I have told you previously. Provincial autonomy means the provinces should be given the freedom to make their own rules and regulation, to frame their own policies and run their own administration without the interference by the central government. That is provincial autonomy. Okay. Then, if at the center cabinet is formed, one-third representation should be given to the Muslims in the cabinet as well. I'll explain this with the help of a very simple example so that you can easily understand. Again, the point, if suppose there are 100 seats, okay? Now, out of 100 seats, not every 100 minister would be a part of cabinet, okay? Suppose out of 100, 5 or 6, suppose 6 people are the part of the cabinet ministry. Now, one more demand is there of the Muslim League basically, that out of the 6 cabinet ministers, one-third should be reserved for Muslim. That is, at least 2 should be reserved. 2 cabinet ministers should be Muslim. Okay, like out of 100 seats, 33 are already reserved for the Muslim. Now, if cabinet, what we say ministers, a circle of cabinet is created, in that as well, one-third should be Muslim. Then, separate electorate for all community. Now, initially he demanded joint electorate, but after Nehru report, he is demanding separate electorate for all communities, like that is Sikh, then basically Muslim, Muslims, Sikh, Parsi, Jain, Buddhist, and so on. And this provision had already been given in Government of India Act 1919. My friends, if you remember Morley Minto reforms 1909 and Montego Chelmsford reforms 1919, you will clearly understand that separate electorate to Muslim was given in 1909, and the provision for separate electorate was extended in 1919. It was given to Sikh, it was given to Europeans, it was given to Anglo-Indians, and so on. Then, no bill or resolution in any legislature to be passed if 3 by 4th minority of that community consider against their interest. This clause should not be done. Why this clause is wrong? Let us understand. Now, suppose there are 100 members in a particular legislature. Now, for framing any particular policy on the basis of special majority, what should be the criteria basically? At least 2/3 people should support that law. Suppose out of 100, at least 60 to 70 ministers should support that law, irrespective of the community. Getting the points clear? Even if they belong to any community, the law should be passed by the entire legislature and not by a single community, because the legislature is representing the entire nation. Okay, I'll give you a small example. Recently, a law was made on triple talaq. Okay, I'm giving an example so that you can easily understand. Now, this law was made by all the parliamentarians and not by a particular community. Isn't that so? This reflects the true nature of democracy. Now here, what was the clause basically? Suppose if any law is to be made on Sikh community, okay? Suppose if a law is to be made on the Sikh community, that law should be supported by 3 by 4th members of the Sikh community. Example, suppose 100 seats are there in the legislature. Out of 100 seats, basically 20 Sikh are there. Okay. Now 1 by 3rd of 20 is approximately 7 seats. Okay. If 7, what we say, Sikh community people support that law, then and then that law would be passed. Otherwise, it would not be passed. So this is basically wrong. The law should be passed by the entire legislature and not by a particular community. Okay. This is the meaning of the second. This was the meaning of this statement. Okay. Then, any territorial redistribution should not affect Muslim majority in Punjab, Bengal and Northwestern Frontier Province. Suppose in coming days, if there is a distribution of the territories, okay, if there is a demarcation of the territories, it should not affect the Muslims there. For example, certain Muslims will move from Punjab, certain Muslims will move from Bengal to United Provinces. It should not affect the Muslim majority or Muslim, what we say, population in that manner. Proper analysis should be done before redistribution of any particular territory. Full religious freedom to all the community. Like the entire country should be secular in nature. Everyone has the right to practice, profess and propagate his own religion. And this was one of the demands of the Jinnahs 14-point plan. Separation of Sindh from Bombay Presidency, again an important demand. And the reason that he cited was administrative reason. Like basically, although there was basically a communal reason being involved in it, but administrative reasons were also cited. Like the Bengal, Bombay Presidency was also quite big. So to run this smooth administration, Sindh should be separated from the Bombay Presidency. Okay. Muslims should be given adequate share in all the services, including the defense services, civil services, and so on. Wherever there are political executive, wherever there are permanent executive, proper representation should be given to the Muslim. Okay. And proper safeguard for the protection of Muslim culture. Now, what happened basically, every section, Sikh community, Hindu Mahasabha, Muslim League opposed the Nehru report. In fact, Jawaharlal Nehru and Subhash Chandra Bose also were angered by this. Now, why, Shipra, you had asked me a question, why Jawaharlal Nehru opposed his own father, Motilal Nehru? Now, I have used here word dominion status. Dominion status is very similar to self-government. This is 1929. And Indian National Congress was formed in 1885. Then also the demand was self-government. And now even after 5 decades, the demand is self-government. It's 45 years to 50 years now. And now the demand should be complete independence. We do not want to keep any sort of relation with the Britishers. We completely want to detach ourselves from the policies of the Britishers. This should be demand now. Otherwise, what is the difference after the 5 decades? Getting the points clear? And they both set up their own, like Bose, Subhash Chandra Bose ji and Jawaharlal Nehru set up Independence for India League now. Hope so. Jinnah's 14-point plan is clear, my friends. See, Harmeet, basically, rather than saying, suppose if a particular community demands, like for example, although he was representing the Muslim section, okay, now if he demands only for the Muslim, it will project that he is having self-interest here. But if he demands for the entire minority, he will get the support from the other sections of the minority as well. Hope so, Harmeet, I have answered your question. Yes, Shipra, did you understand why Jawaharlal Nehru was opposed to the policy of his own father, Motilal Nehru? Yes, Shipra? Okay. Now let's understand the Lahore session 1929. Now, it is called as Lahore session 1929 because it was held in Lahore and it was presided by Jawaharlal Nehru. Now, Jawaharlal Nehru passed a Purna Swaraj resolution in Lahore session. Lahore session is very important from exam perspective, and time and again there have been questions on Lahore session in the examination. Why? Because for the first time Purna Swaraj resolution was passed in the Lahore session. And what is Purna Swaraj resolution? Complete independence. Like for example, why Jawaharlal Nehru was opposed to his father Motilal Nehru? Because you are working in the same pattern which you have worked 5 decades ago. 5 decades ago, Congress was demanding self-government. Now, as a part of Nehru Report, you are demanding what? Dominion status. So what is the difference of nurturing the movement for 5 decades? It will completely be against the policies of the Congress now. So he now was very successful in passing what we say new demand. That is Purna Swaraj resolution. We want complete detachment from the alien rule. We want complete independence now. And all the future elections to be boycotted. Why the election should be boycotted? Because we are going to run our own countries, our own country on our own administrative lines. We are not going to follow the rules and regulations which are framed by an alien rule in our country now. And now, what happened by now? Nehru report deadline was given 31st December 1929 and the deadline passed. And by now, basically, another important movement was going on in the country. There was a push given to another important movement, which we are going to discuss day after tomorrow. That is civil disobedience movement. And on 2nd January 1930, what happened basically? Purna Swaraj Day was Purna Swaraj resolution was taken, and it was decided that 26th January 1930, Purna Swaraj Day would be observed throughout the nation. That is why 26th January is selected as our Republic Day. Getting the points clear? And the Purna Swaraj pledge was drafted by M.K. Gandhi. And Jawaharlal Nehru unfurled the flag of India on the banks of river Ravi or Parushini. That is the left bank tributary of river Indus in Lahore. So this is nothing but Lahore resolution. So what sort of questions can be framed in the exam? Purna Swaraj resolution was framed in which session of the Indian National Congress? It was in Lahore session of the Indian National Congress. Who presided the Lahore session? Jawaharlal Nehru presided the Lahore session. Who framed the Purna Swaraj pledge? Maximum people will answer Jawaharlal Nehru. It was not Jawaharlal Nehru. Purna Swaraj resolution was passed by him, but the pledge was passed by M.K. Gandhi. So this is basically about the Purna Swaraj resolution. So my friends, did you understand the Lahore resolution of 1929? Please let me know any query, any question, any sort of doubt. See, initially Britishers were ruling Satya. Initially Britishers were ruling over us, and I have time and again repeated that. Basically, our country is run on the same democratic lines. Basically, at that time, like the Britishers. But now our constitution is a bag of borrowing, and we have adopted in a very wise manner from various other countries. But now we have very strict regulation concerning visa as well. Okay, it's a sort of a token of a respect, basically. Hope so. The points are clear. Yes, Monisha, a very good question. As per 1784, okay, it is said that as per Pitt's India Act 1784, uh, if a civil servant is recruited, he has to disclose his property within 2 months. Now, you said that how corruption can be contained there. Listen to me very carefully. Suppose a civil servant discloses his property within 2 months, what will happen? He would be having a stipulated salary. He would be getting a stipulated perks and privileges, and this would be managed by the Britishers. Now, after this salary, how much money he has accrued? Getting the points clear? How much property after his recruitment he has included in his what we say assets? That would be counted. Okay, and in this manner, they could easily contain the corruption. Actually, the corruption was not contained but this was the purpose basically in the Pitt's India Act 1784. Hope so, Monisha, I have answered your question. Yes, Harmeet, the test basically, probably I'm thinking to conduct a test on Friday. And basically the topics will be right from the start of the modern India till what I'll be teaching on till Thursday. Okay. Yes, guys. Yes. Have I made myself clear, Monisha? Yes, please let me know. Have I made myself clear? Did you understand? Okay. Thank you. Yes, guys, please write down today's question. Yes, as I have told you, answer writing is a very important aspect during the mains. And hope so everybody is doing the answer writing practice seriously, because answer writing will help you to develop your competence and competitiveness in the exam, guys. So please write down a question for today. Okay. Nehru report further sowed Nehru report further sowed the seeds of communalism in India. Sorry. Do not go for Nehru report. It is Jinnah's 14-point plan. Jinnah's 14-point plan further sowed the seeds of communalism in India. I repeat, Jinnah's 14-point plan further sowed the seeds of communalism in India. Comment. 150 words, 6.5 minutes. Please stick to the time limit. Yes, guys, if you like my lectures, subscribe to Unacademy and use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Yes, Harmeet, you need to practice it continuously. That is why I'm saying that basically 6.5 to 7 minutes. Actually, you have a 7.5 minutes. But basically, if you continuously keep on practicing, okay, these things would come through practice. And once you have written 30, 40 answers, automatically it will come in the flow. Okay. Okay, guys, thank you. Please use my code AKOUS.